Dante's Inferno was developed by Visceral Games, the same folks who brought us the Dead Space series. Despite being released 2 years after the first Dead Space title, Dante's Inferno seems to lack that game's polish and focus. The game is obviously based on the Inferno section of Dante's Divine Comedy. The basic plot is that Dante was fighting in the Crusades, committing atrocities and war crimes, all under the assumption that his sins would be absolved, because he's one of the good guys. Dante even goes so far as to break the no-fap, no-fuck challenge vow that he made to his beloved Beatrice, but he still believes he has done no wrong. An assassin winds up murdering Dante, and Death shows up, ready to send Dante to eternal damnation for his sins. But Dante yells, "We had a deal!" and refuses to die. Instead, he kills Death, takes their scythe, and returns home, only to find that Beatrice and his father have both been murdered. Lucifer himself then appears and drags Beatrice down to hell. Dante follows in hot pursuit, and through a very God of War inspired series of third-person hack-and-slash battles, Dante takes on the 9 circles of hell in an attempt to retrieve the lover that he betrayed. Now, I took a very extended break from gaming around the time that the GameCube was discontinued, and up until then, I was a very faithful Nintendo fanboy. I never really played any Xbox or PlayStation games up until a couple years ago, so I picked up Dante's Inferno on the Xbox One as part of my attempt to catch up on all the 2010s gaming that I missed out on. The gameplay itself in Dante's Inferno is pretty standard 3D hack and slash, which I find to be a sort of evolution of the side-scrolling beat-em-up genre that we saw in the 90s. It's the same sort of thing that was used in the Ninja Gaiden reboot and the God of War series, but I think it was done best by games like Devil May Cry, and in many ways it was expanded upon by games like Arkham Asylum or Spider-Man on the PS4. This style of combat can be very repetitive, so a game needs to find ways to keep the player engaged while they do the same thing for hours on end. Dante's Inferno does try to switch things up here and there, with wall climbing, platforming sections, riding giant beasts, and the occasional puzzle. However, none of these elements really grabbed me. The thing that kept me going through the game was wanting to see all the different enemies and hell imagery. There is some genuinely disturbing stuff in here, whether it's the monster lady whose nipples open like a little hatch door to release the mutilated living corpses of unbaptized babies who have blades for hands, and her nipples also have tongues coming out of them, or maybe the countless wailing, suffering hordes of sinners that are crammed into almost every wall. The game really goes out of its way to depict a truly horrific vision of hell. While there were more than a few times where my objectives were unclear or an inconveniently placed checkpoint forced me into a battle with really low health, my desire to see more fucked up shit really kept me going. The game started off very difficult, with the opening boss battle against Death giving me a lot of trouble, but I was able to take out several later bosses with relative ease. The game never really felt truly balanced, and there was a lot of awkward moments throughout the levels where things just didn't feel like they were completely play-tested or refined. The game has really great looking cutscenes and animations, especially when you consider that it came out over 10 years ago. However, the actual gameplay experience just doesn't live up to the standards and expectations that are set by the story and its visuals. You can run through the game in around 6 hours, so it's not a huge time commitment if you're curious about it. The game ends on a cliffhanger, but unfortunately we never got a sequel due to the lukewarm reception the game got at the time. While Visceral Games is now defunct, much of the team still works together, and they're currently getting ready to launch a spiritual successor to the Dead Space series. So, who knows? Maybe the story could get picked up again. In the meantime, if you can get Dante's Inferno on the cheap, I'd say it's worthwhile. But at its current price of $14.99 on the Microsoft Store, it's hard for me to recommend, especially when a disc copy of a game like God of War on the PS4 is the same price. And you can look up Rule 34 of Dante's Inferno bosses for free.